Hey everyone. This one starts with a single text at 5:30 a.m. and spirals into something you won't see coming. Stick with me till the end, and if you're into real gripping stories, hit subscribe. I woke up to the buzz of Maris's phone rattling on the nightstand. It was still dark, maybe 5:30, the kind of buzz that gets under your skin because it doesn't stop. I rolled over, half asleep, just in time to see her screen light up. The message said, "Can't wait today, missed you. D." It was from someone saved as Dax H. I didn't touch the phone, didn't scroll. I didn't have to. I saw enough in that half second to feel my stomach drop. Maris was out cold, turned away from me, breathing slow, peaceful, like someone who wasn't lying to the person sleeping next to her. The past 6 months had already started feeling off. She'd been disappearing on weekends. Saturday or Sunday she'd toss out, just getting coffee with Dax, nothing serious. Like I was supposed to hand her a gold star for maintaining boundaries. Our plans would vanish. She'd say he was struggling or having a rough week, and it'd be framed like a favor, like she was helping an old friend, maybe even doing a little therapy work on the side. Then she'd come back hours later, recharged, humming in the kitchen, wearing that soft expression I hadn't seen directed at me in weeks. Then came the patio calls, always late, always just 5 minutes, always turning into 40. She'd come in glowing, that lit-up look people wear when they know they've been wanted. Quick note, before we start, drop a comment with the city or country you're watching from, and let's continue. I trusted her longer than I should have. She's a litigation attorney, high-stress world. Maybe she needed a place to breathe. I told myself not to act like a child. I'm Arlen Voss. I'm 39. I co-own a brand strategy firm in Portland. I fix things. I don't spiral, but I know the difference between a harmless check-in and a private world somebody keeps feeding. When she finally stirred that morning, the first thing she did was smile at her phone, just a small smile, like her morning had already gone right. She hadn't even looked at me. I was grinding beans for coffee when she said it. Soft, casual, almost like a joke. Dax is harmless, Arlen. I hadn't said his name. It chilled me. I held it together. Smiled, nodded, poured her a cup. Watched her spritz on a perfume she never wore to work. Looking back, I should have known then. That message wasn't the start. It was just the part I saw. And by the time you see it, you're already in it. She started showering early on Saturdays. Not the lazy, coffee-first kind of shower people take when they're easing into a day off. This was sharp, on schedule, like she had somewhere important to be. Blow-dried hair, full makeup, perfume I didn't recognize, and clothes that didn't say, "just grabbing coffee." They said, "Someone will be looking at me." I didn't say anything the first few times. I just watched the pattern form. He was always back in town or getting back on his feet, like she was managing his comeback instead of our weekend. I didn't know what Dax's life looked like anymore, only that it somehow needed my wife every Saturday morning. At home, I only had scraps. Calendar blocks labeled vague things, half-lies dressed as kindness, and her energy, which told the truth before her mouth ever did. She'd leave clipped and distracted, barely listening when I asked when she'd be back. Then she'd come home with that lightness again, kicking off her boots like she was 17 and just got kissed in a parking lot. One Saturday, I finally said something. "What if we go up to the lake for the day? Just us. Clear our heads a little." She didn't even look up from her phone. I already told him I'd meet. He's not doing great. I waited a beat, then said, "Why does his crisis always land on our weekend?" She sighed and gave me that sharp tone that said she was already done with the conversation. "You're making this into something it's not." That line stuck with me. It became her favorite defense. Not, "Nothing's going on," just that I was the one inventing problems. If I asked questions, I was insecure. If I didn't, I was disengaged. There wasn't a lane where I got to be concerned and still be seen as rational. Then came the phone. Silent mode, face down on every surface, always in her hand or pocket. If she left the room, it left with her. I noticed all of it, not because I was trying to be suspicious, but because the vibe in our house was changing, and she didn't care if I saw it. One Thursday, she asked if she could borrow something nice for a dinner. "Just work people," she said. "You mind if I wear your dad's old watch?" I hesitated. That watch wasn't flashy. It wasn't some status piece. It was a clean silver face Hamilton my father wore on court days, the one he gave me the year before he died. I said yes anyway, because I didn't want to look paranoid over a wristwatch. That night she got a call around 10 and stepped outside like always. I watched the patio light glow through the blinds. I could hear her voice, low but soft. When she came back in, she had that look again. That private little glow. She didn't say who called. I didn't ask, but she wasn't smiling at me. After that, I started sleeping light. Every buzz, every ding, I'd jolt like someone hit an alarm. I wasn't afraid of her. I was just wired now. My brain kept spinning because I couldn't tell what story I was still part of. Looking back, I think this is where the real damage starts. Not in cheating, not in lies. In that slow, invisible edit where your life shrinks around you and nobody tells you you've been cut. I needed to talk to someone who wasn't inside the four walls of my marriage. Someone who knew us both, but wasn't too close to the fire. That ended up being Lenora Pike. She'd been part of our circle for years, sold high-end homes, had a real polished confidence, like she knew every game and was above playing any of them. She always had opinions, and people let her give them because she acted like she'd already lived everyone's life twice. We met at this cafe down the street, all matte black tile and brass light fixtures. The kind of place where people sip espresso in workout clothes and pretend they're not paying $12 for a smoothie. I told her what I'd seen. Not a full breakdown, just what I'd noticed. I didn't accuse anyone. I said I was starting to feel like something was off, and I didn't want to blow it out of proportion without checking my perspective. Lenora gave me that tiny smirk before I was even done talking, like I was sweet for thinking this was a serious issue. She picked up her drink and said, "Arlen, grown adults can be friends with their exes. It's actually healthy." I nodded slowly. "Every weekend, though? Every Saturday morning, alone time, no breaks, no overlap with me?" She laughed under her breath like I'd missed the bigger picture. "Maybe you need to work on your confidence a little. You can't police her time." That word sat in my chest like a rock. Police. I wasn't following Maris. I wasn't checking her phone or showing up unannounced. I was asking why my wife was spending her weekends with another man and coming home happier than when she left. Lenora leaned back, swirling her coffee like this was nothing new. She threw in another jab, dressed up like a compliment. "Honestly, Maris is just very evolved emotionally. Maybe that's hard for you to see when you're feeling—" She paused. "Vulnerable." So now I was the one with the problem. Insecure, controlling, too small-minded to recognize enlightened behavior. I forced a smile, nodded again, and let the conversation die on its own. I walked out of that cafe worse than I walked in, like I'd admitted something pathetic, like I should have kept my mouth shut and learned to be grateful that my wife even came home at all. What I didn't know yet, what Shaw would eventually tell me, and what I confirmed later, was that Lenora had been spending time with Dax too. She'd shown him listings, invited him to an open house, told mutual friends he was trying to rebuild. That changed everything. She wasn't neutral. She was protecting her little web, the kind where people convince themselves boundaries are old-fashioned, and anyone who questions them just doesn't get it. I pulled into our driveway and sat there with the engine running. If I couldn't even say, "Something's wrong here," without being told I was weak, what did that say about my place in this marriage? It wasn't just Maris choosing weekends without me. It was everyone around me treating that like maturity. I didn't tell Maris about the talk with Lenora. I didn't tell anyone. But I stopped talking myself out of my own instincts. The first real crack came from Shaw. We were wrapping up a Thursday morning client call, branding campaign for a logistics startup, when he went quiet for a second, then said, "Hey, this is awkward, but I saw Maris last weekend." My stomach tightened, but I kept my voice steady. "Where?" He named a restaurant in the Pearl District. One of those places with white tablecloths and art on the walls that looks expensive because nobody understands it. Definitely not the neighborhood cafe Maris had said she was going to. She was with a guy, he said. Tall, beard, maybe 40, wearing one of those jackets that look like they came with a film crew. I didn't say anything. They were sitting close, he added. Not like colleagues, not like old friends catching up. It read like a date. Shaw doesn't talk in drama. He's a systems guy. Timelines, clean facts. He wouldn't say any of this unless it sat wrong with him. I thanked him and we moved on. I didn't go home angry. I didn't throw anything. I just paid attention. I stopped trusting Maris by default. I started clocking patterns. 3 days later, I was taking the trash out when my neighbor, Mrs. Copley, waved me over. Retired school principal, kind eyes, always trimming roses like it was her full-time job. She smiled and said, "Your wife looked happy yesterday at the park." I paused. "Sorry, what do you mean?" She laughed, almost apologetically. "She was walking with that documentary fellow, you know, the one she mentioned at the block party. They were holding hands, like high school kids." My mouth didn't move. I just stared. Her face changed instantly. "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that," she stammered. "I just assumed." I told her it was fine. I went back inside, put the trash bag down, and sat at my desk. That night I started writing down dates. I didn't do it to build a case. I wasn't trying to trap her. I needed to keep my reality straight. When someone's rewriting history in real time, memory starts to slip. I wasn't going to be the guy who forgot what he lived through just because someone else had a smoother story. I didn't guess anymore. I didn't assume. I logged. I tracked. A restaurant that didn't match her calendar. A conversation that didn't match what she told me when she got home. A slip of the tongue, like saying we when she meant me. Later on, when people asked how I knew something was off if I never saw it with my own eyes, I told them this. I didn't catch her. I collected her. I should have caught it sooner. The signs were sitting right there in our joint statements, numbers I'd skimmed 100 times without really seeing them. I'm the one who handles most of our bills, always have. I'm the system guy. Maris handles the calendar, the appearances. I keep things running. But one night, after sitting at my desk for over an hour, rereading old text chains and trying to convince myself I was overthinking it all, I opened the shared card account and actually looked. It didn't take long. There were reservation charges at places we'd never gone. 2 tickets to a private gallery event on a Thursday night she claimed she was working late. A wine bar tab with a dollar amount that didn't say networking. It said celebration. One of those charges even had a service fee for a private booth. I asked her about it the next night. Calm, no accusations, just, hey, what was this dinner charge for? It's not in your calendar. She didn't flinch. That's what messed with me the most. Her eyes didn't shift. She just slid straight into attorney mode like someone hit play on a script. I had to meet a contact. It's connected to a litigation opportunity we're trying to line up. I nodded. What about the exhibit tickets? Dax introduced me to someone on the board. It was networking. And the bottle service at the wine bar? She sighed like I was exhausting. Arlen, you don't understand how relationships work in my world. It's not like your firm. These are legacy clients. They expect you to show up in ways that aren't always traditional. It was perfect execution. She didn't deny the events. She just reframed them. The issue wasn't her actions, it was my lack of understanding. I didn't argue. I let her walk away with her monologue and her clean conscience. But a couple days later, the confirmation dropped in my lap, and it didn't come from her. It came from Dax, or more specifically, from his Instagram story, grabbed and screenshotted by Shaw, who was in the middle of compiling geotagged posts for a completely unrelated campaign. Shaw messaged me with no warning. Didn't want to send this, but I think you need to see it. I'm sorry, man. The image was grainy, taken at an angle like it was meant to look spontaneous. Dax at some upscale gallery event, dim lighting, people in layered black outfits pretending to understand abstract sculpture. And there, standing next to him, facing slightly away but unmistakable, was Maris. Not arm in arm, not kissing, but close enough, present enough. The caption said, "Nothing like old rhythm. Gallery nights are back." And that alone wouldn't have done it. But her wrist was in the frame, my father's watch, silver band, minimalist face, no mistake. The same watch she'd borrowed for a work dinner a week earlier, and now it was sitting in another man's story like some quiet trophy. She got home late that night, not drunk, not giddy, just normal. I didn't come at her swinging. I just asked, "Why is my dad's watch in Dax's Instagram story?" She blinked once, then tilted her head. "Because you're imagining insults that aren't there." That was the line, right there. Not a denial, not confusion, just a cold shove back into the box she wanted me to stay in. I wasn't supposed to ask questions. I was supposed to believe that everything made sense. If I were smarter, more evolved, less fragile. But I wasn't fragile. I was done being fed smoke and calling it air. I sat with that moment longer than I should have. My dad's watch on another man's wrist, and Maris looking at me like I was the one crossing a line. But I didn't say another word. I logged it, mentally filed it next to the other flags, and went back to work. That's when the 4th offer came in. Vera Sloan sent it straight to my inbox. Short, professional, no fluff. She wanted me in Birmingham, regional leadership, bigger clients, full build-out authority. This wasn't some soft landing or temporary shift. It was a serious move, and she made it clear the window wouldn't stay open forever. She'd asked me 3 times before, and I'd stalled every time. I kept saying no because I thought putting my marriage first meant staying close, being available, keeping things steady. What I was really doing was giving up ground Maris didn't even have to fight for. I handed it over for free. I didn't tell her about the new email, not to be sneaky, but because I already knew how she'd respond. Big decisions with Maris always turned into a court session, me presenting a motion, her sitting behind the bench pretending not to already know her verdict. While I was chewing on the offer, Shaw flagged something that didn't sit right. A client we'd been chasing for over a month, a good fit, real warm lead, suddenly went cold. Their reason didn't match the tone we'd built. Shaw leaned over my desk and said, "You're not going to like this, but someone told them you might be unstable, that your energy's been off." I didn't need to ask who. He didn't say it either. We just looked at each other and knew. That word again, unstable. Like I was the one losing grip, like I was some jealous wreck inventing betrayal instead of just naming it. It wasn't just mind games anymore. It was sabotage. Then came the final piece, and it didn't come from Maris. A friend of Vera's reached out casually, asking if I was still on the fence about Birmingham. "Funny," she said. "Maris mentioned the opportunity a few weeks ago. Sounded like she had strong feelings about it." I hadn't told Maris a word. She'd gone behind me. Not to support the move. To scan it, scope it out, get a read on whether she could shape the narrative if I left. She wasn't interested in what Birmingham would do for my career. She was interested in what it would do to her control. If I took the role, I'd start depending less on her name, her contacts, her version of our story. If I stayed, she'd keep playing both sides, polished marriage on paper, plus her weekend escape plan with Dax. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about trust anymore. This was about power. Maris wasn't clinging to our marriage. She was managing it like a brand, like something that looked better with me still in the picture, as long as I kept my mouth shut. So I did what I've always done in business. I cleaned up my position. I stopped negotiating against myself. I stopped offering grace where it wasn't earned. When Vera called again, I told her I needed a little time to tie up personal stuff, but I was close. She didn't push. She just said, "Don't wait so long you miss your own life." And I'll tell you, those words hit harder than anything Maris had said in 6 months. Vera's voice stuck with me for days. "Don't wait so long you miss your own life." It stayed in the back of my mind like a countdown clock ticking behind everything I did. Still, I didn't move just yet. I wanted to be smart, not reactive. I'd spent months playing it cool while my own wife built a second life around me. I wasn't going to mess this up by rushing the finish. Then I ran into Dax. It wasn't planned. Shaw and I were walking out of a small industry event. Brand design mixer, nothing major, and there he was, posted up by the railing outside the venue like he owned it. Jacket half-buttoned, drink in hand, that smug, relaxed posture people have when they think they're winning. He smiled like we were old friends, like we were part of the same team. "So you and Maris are finally making it official?" he said. I blinked. "What are you talking about?" He gave this casual little shrug. "She told me you two are basically done, just paperwork and timing. She said it's been like roommates for a while now." I didn't answer. I just stood there while it landed. That was it. The other version of the story. The villain version. To me, Dax had always been painted as this fragile friend from the past, some chaotic stray she was trying to help stay afloat. But to him, I was the jail she was trying to break out of. I was the worn-out placeholder she needed to shake loose. I didn't swing on him. I didn't throw a drink or start a scene. I just walked away, because it finally clicked. Maris had been running 2 scripts the whole time. One for me, loyal, maybe confused, but never cheating. And one for him, lonely, trapped, misunderstood. She got to be the hero in both. That night, I went home and asked Shaw to pull up everything he'd quietly gathered. Posts, tags, timestamps, receipts. Not because I needed more proof. I just needed the full picture. I needed to know how far it had gone, without me seeing it. Shaw's timeline was brutal in its clarity. It wasn't just dinners or weekend walks. It was a weekday out-of-town trip she'd sworn was locked in for a case. It was side-by-side photos from places she told me were networking mixers that somehow didn't have any other colleagues in sight. And then there was Lenora. In the background of one photo, her car was visible, her custom plates, easy to spot. In another, a mirror caught her reflection, seated at a table across from Dax and Maris like she was right in it, part of the whole setup. She hadn't just dismissed my concerns. She'd actively made it easier for Maris to lie with confidence. Lenora's job wasn't to offer advice. It was to keep the illusion polished, to reinforce the idea that Maris was reasonable, mature, respected. So if I had doubts, the problem had to be me. That's when I stopped wondering if I was overreacting. I booked a consultation with a divorce attorney the next day, quietly, no threats, no fights. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. I wanted options, because I wasn't going to be the guy who got ambushed because he didn't prepare. And I didn't show Maris the file. I didn't put the photos or receipts in front of her. I'd learned something critical. Giving a controller your evidence doesn't end the story. It just teaches them what to hide better next time. She was putting on lipstick in the hallway mirror when I said it. Just a regular Friday night, no special event, no family emergency. Just another quick talk with Dax that somehow needed mascara, heels, and perfume she never wore around me anymore. I leaned against the doorframe and kept my tone neutral. What if we skipped this one? She didn't even pause. What? This weekend. What if we actually spent it together? I booked a place out by the lake. Nothing fancy. Just 2 nights, no phones, no distractions. You and me. She turned slowly, the way people do when they're deciding how big a scene to make. Why are you doing this right now? I didn't raise my voice. Didn't accuse. I just said, because I'm your husband, Maris, and I'm tired of being scheduled around your ex. She laughed, short, dry, no humor in it. Don't do this again. You always make it about something it's not. I didn't move. I let her finish zipping her coat before I spoke again. You spend every weekend with him, Maris, every single one. I ask for 2 days with my wife, and it's treated like an interruption. That's when she snapped, and it wasn't even dramatic. It was sharp, rehearsed, like she'd been holding the line ready for weeks. If you can't trust me when I spend every weekend with my ex, then maybe we shouldn't be together. And there it was. No fluff, no metaphor, just the sentence that cracked it open. And she said it like a dare. Like she expected me to beg, to fold, to say something soft that would make her feel superior again. But I didn't feel soft anymore. I didn't even feel angry. I just saw things clearly for the first time in a long time. I looked her dead in the eye and said, calm and steady, you're right. She blinked, confused, like her system glitched. Wait, what? I didn't give her a speech. I didn't give her space to rebuild the scene. I said, you meant it enough to say it, so we're done pretending. She stood there with her keys in her hand, like she couldn't figure out if she was still in control or not. The silence stretched. She wasn't used to not being the one who ended the conversation. Arlen, I didn't mean... I cut it off with the same level tone. Yeah, you did. And I finally heard it. The thing that stunned her wasn't the words. It was the calm. No panic, no drama, no pleading for another version of the truth. Just acceptance. She reached for her purse like the momentum would carry her out the door. But it didn't. She hesitated. That half-second of uncertainty was everything. I stepped out of the way and let her walk past. No slamming, no final insult. Just a quiet hallway, her footsteps fading, and me standing there like a man who didn't owe anyone a performance anymore. And that moment, that exact second of peace when I realized she had no more control over me, that was the first time I felt like I'd come back to myself. The next morning, I didn't waste time reflecting or looking for signs. I got up, showered, made coffee like it was any other day, and sat down at my desk. The Birmingham offer was still sitting in my inbox, waiting. I opened the file, signed the transfer paperwork, and sent Vera a straight, clean message. I'm in, she replied within the hour. Full onboarding schedule, start date, relocation details, housing resources, everything handled. No drama, no questions, just a door opened, and a clear expectation that I'd walk through it like a man who knew exactly what he wanted. I told Shaw right after. We sat down in the back office, sketched out the structure. He'd keep the Portland studio running tight. I'd build the Birmingham unit from the ground up. No leaks, no gaps, no overlap that gave anyone a reason to question who ran what. Shaw nodded through the whole thing like he'd been waiting for me to finally make the call. You'll do great down there. It's overdue, he said. Meanwhile, Maris was pretending the house hadn't shifted under her feet. She texted me around 3 like everything was normal. What do you want to do this weekend? Like we were still married in spirit, like the night before had been a mood instead of a decision. I didn't answer her yet. First, I handled the one thing I refused to leave behind, my father's watch. I didn't ask for it back from her. I knew how that would go. Deflection, debate, maybe another lie about where it even was. Instead, I found Dax's studio address online through an old event listing, checked it against a public business registry, and drafted a one-line message. My family item needs to be returned, no debate. Dax tried to act confused. Replied with, not sure what you're referring to. I didn't take the bait. I sent nothing back. 2 hours later, a padded envelope landed at my front desk. No return address, no note. But inside was the watch, untouched, still ticking. That silence told me everything. That was my win. Not a scene, not a victory lap, just the quiet satisfaction of pulling my story out of theirs. I didn't stop there. I went into our financial accounts and tightened everything up, changed every password, separated everything. I pulled shared authorizations, documented assets, removed her as a beneficiary on anything personal or professional, not out of spite, out of strategy, because once I saw how she twisted narratives, I stopped assuming money would be safe just because it was shared. She noticed a few days later when her card declined at some boutique spot she liked, called me furious. "You're punishing me financially? Is that where we are now?" I stayed calm. "No, I'm just not funding this anymore." She didn't respond, just hung up. That night I packed what I needed, laptop, essentials, 2 bags, and left the house quiet. No note, no explanation, just lights off, doors locked, and 1 key left on the kitchen counter. I checked into a small hotel near the airport, got into bed, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't wake up in the middle of the night with my jaw clenched. I slept. Not like a man escaping something, but like one who'd finally stopped giving people space to lie to him in his own home. Sunday morning, I opened my eyes before the alarm went off and didn't feel dread. No tension in my shoulders, no imaginary fight playing on a loop in my head. Just air. Clean, quiet air. I showered, dressed in jeans and a plain button-down, and checked out of the hotel without a second glance. The bags in my trunk were light, carry-on, laptop bag, charger. No clutter, no weight I didn't choose. Halfway to the airport, a text buzzed through. "Maris, what are you doing this weekend?" Not even a question about where I was. Just another line like we were still playing house, like nothing had shifted. I stared at it while parked at a red light. And it hit me. She still thought she controlled the board. Still thought I'd loop back around like I always did. Too rational to walk away, too responsible to cut the cord. But I was already gone. I parked, walked through the terminal, past families wrangling toddlers and business types in polos and sneakers, people moving forward, nobody scanning for damage, nobody acting like normal had to be earned. At the gate, I sat down by the windows, pulled out my phone, and flipped to the camera. Behind me, the departure screen. Birmingham. Clear as day. I took the photo and sent it to her. No caption, no speech, just the truth. Her reply came back fast. "Are you serious? Come home. We need to talk." That word again. Talk, like we hadn't already buried this thing in 100 conversations that never changed a single thing. What she meant was, come home and play by my rules again. Come home and let me rewrite it one more time. I put my phone on airplane mode and leaned back in the seat. A row to myself. Quiet. Window seat. I looked out at the runway and felt something shift in my chest. Not relief, not revenge, just space. Later, I heard the fallout secondhand. Shaw told me Maris had called, fishing for updates, trying to spin some angle about my mental state. He shut it down before she could get going. Dax messaged me the week after. Short, bitter, something like, "Guess she lied to both of us." He wasn't swaggering anymore, just disappointed to realize he wasn't the exception. He was the side project. Lenora tried her version too, sent a check-in text that sounded like concern but landed like manipulation. Shaw also mentioned she was telling people I'd overreacted. I didn't defend myself. I just stopped taking her calls. In Birmingham, I got to work. Vera backed me like a freight train. Shaw kept the home base moving, and I started waking up each day not wondering how I'd lost myself. That's what people never tell you. Sometimes the strongest move isn't loud. It's quiet. It's clean. It's leaving without flinching. I left them with their games, and I kept my life. One last question. Have you ever had to walk away quietly because the person you loved kept rewriting the truth and daring you to accept it? If you've got the hype feature, tap it to support this video and help it reach more people. Then please like, subscribe, and drop a comment, even good story, or tell me what you would have done in my shoes.